Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Author Interviews. This week, I have Hey Viv with me. Been a fan of hers for quite some time, and I'm really happy to see her come on the show. Hey, Viv, how are you doing?
Good. How are you? Thanks for inviting me.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. Every time that I've DM'd you, I've specifically tried not to say Hey Viv, and I
Oh,
usually say Hey so and so. So it was quite a task.
yeah. That's exactly why I named my channel Hey Viv, because that's how kind of what everyone like, Hey Viv. I said, okay, that's kind of a cool name. So I just go with it.
That works out. So we were just talking a little bit, just real quick as people come in. So at New York Comic Con, you got a chance to meet some of the other Fandom Menace channels. How was that?
Oh, it was a lot of fun. I mean, I knew Jeremy from mostly going on lives and like talking to him over the phone. But personally, it was the first time I met him, so I got to meet Jeremy. Also, Nerdrotics. It was a lot of fun to see him. EVS was there too. He wasn't there long, but yeah, it was a cool experience. I didn't really get to go to the meetup at night because I had to go cover a panel because I needed to do some photos there for
Mhm.
for a thing that I was writing. So for that reason, I didn't get to go to the meetup, but it was a lot of fun to meet those guys.
That's awesome. Did you happen to meet Cecil?
I did see him arriving
Does
for a
does he
little bit, yes, and
does
then
he wear the
after
mask all the time?
he was wearing the mask when he arrived, and I was like, that's kind of odd, but at the same time, it's Comic-Con, so I won't judge.
Right.
I didn't say anything.
That was the question that I had when I saw Cecil in the mask. I was like, I get it while you're on live, but were you wearing it the entire time?
Yeah. When he arrived there, I'm not sure if he wore the mask the entire time. He was hanging out with Jeremy a lot. So I'm not sure. Jeremy probably would know how to answer that question.
Does Jeremy seem above average in real life?
Um, I don't know. I wasn't really checking.
Okay. So let's say hi to a few people that stopped in. Appreciate the ambassador. How you doing, buddy? Thanks for stopping by. Sporky News Podcast, the ego of the fourth wave. Nice to see you, bud. Brad's here. Thank you for showing up. Tyler, he's the mascot of the channel. Thanks for being here. It says Viv is God. Change my mind.
What? No, I'm not.
You have fans here at least.
Yeah, no, that's nice. That's always nice to meet people that watch the channel. I appreciate it.
So all right, let's get this started. So tell me about Viv as a child. What were you into? What did you like as far as entertainments, toys, things like that?
Well, I grew up watching everything that my dad made me watch because my parents were very young, and for some reason he was like everything that he was into, I kind of got into as well.
Mm-hmm.
So he was the one that basically introduced me to pop culture, and not only that, by watching films with him, it's how I kind of like. Started loving films and really like, wow, I really want to do this. I really love filmmaking. And so, yeah, one of the biggest things that I remember growing up was watching Star Wars with my dad. It was the time of the prequels, so I was introduced to the prequels.
Yeah.
And I was born and raised in Brazil. And over there, as far as I knew, there was no such thing as a backlash.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least perhaps later when I grew up, I was like, wow, people didn't like the movie. I didn't really know. But I think it was also different down there. And I used to watch a lot of like Justice League animation, Superman animation, Batman animation. I'm trying to remember the name. There was the X-Men cartoon that I loved it.
Yeah, me too.
You know, the X-Men, that was really good. I just don't remember what was it called. Also, Thundercats, what else? He-Man, She-Ra. I grew up on all those stuff. Well, I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, but I think those are probably the biggest things for me. It was Star Wars, Justice League. I was very much into superheroes. Always been.
Nice. Was there a lot of American pop culture in Brazil, or a lot of
There,
influence?
yes, definitely. So most of the stuff that I watched was from here. There was, Dungeon, and was it called Dungeons and Dragons?
Yeah,
Was that? Yes, I used to love that so much.
with the little
And
barbarian and pony.
yeah, I hate that there was no ending. I was so annoyed.
Yeah.
But I remember watching it even like later. Not like I don't really remember as a kid what I used to watch.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was very much American influence for sure. I mean, I don't even remember watching anything that was produced in Brazil. It was mostly their own like TV show for kids, like just like, but not really like cartoons. Cartoons were mostly American.
Mm-hmm. All right. Real quick, you had said that your father was a big influence on your when you were a kid in pop culture. And well, before the show started, we both had a similar experience as children. My father would often share horror movies that I probably shouldn't have watched as a kid. You
Yeah.
said you had gone through the same thing.
Yes. My mom. I remember this was a topic of a fight at home because she's like, "Are you crazy? You keep showing these things to the sky." So, and my dad, because he would definitely like not really have any filter and let me watch all these like Jason, Friday the 13th, like
Uh-huh.
Freddy Krueger. But I think of all the ones that I scared me the most was Pet Sematary. But yeah, whatever it was on TV, he would just let me watch it. And it was now that I look back at it, I was like, wow, that was kind of like irresponsible. but
Yeah.
yeah, because I remember, especially with Pet Sematary, I was telling you before we went live that I don't remember exactly how the movie goes because I got so scared to watch it again. But I vividly have these images from Pet Sematary that still haunts me, So I was like, I don't think I'm brave enough to watch this movie again.
It's odd. Like I'm raising a son right now, and he's 14. But there was like in the past few years, like certain music I wouldn't listen to around him. I like old Biggie Smalls and stuff like that. Stuff I can't play around kids. Can't play NWA around kids. And certain heavy metal can't play around kids, and movies. And I was looking at my son when he was like 8 or 9 and thinking to myself, my dad would watch Pumpkinhead with me when I was that age, and Day of the Dead, and movies that were banned. So it's like he was especially happy when he found movies that were banned in several states. Oh, son, watch this with me. Just like really grotesque. Oh God, yeah.
Oh my God.
So, yeah, thank God I didn't end up a serial killer. But neither did you.
I know. No, but see, I think this is also a big like it doesn't. I don't think it influences you that way. You know what I mean? It's still like people still, if they're gonna do bad things, they're gonna do bad things. And I don't think that has anything to do with what they watch on TV or if you play video games, for instance. Mm-hmm. I don't think. I think there's nothing to do with that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I liken it to oh God, I almost forgot my point. If anything, it desensitizes. There we go. If anything, it desensitizes you. My son's mother, her grandmother was the same way with her when she was very young. Would watch like Jason and things like that, and then she would just watch like Saw and be unaffected. I'm like, how are you watching that?
That movie is too much. Oh my God.
Yeah, it was too much for me too.
Oh, geez.
But so tell me about teenage Viv. What were you into? What were your likes? What were your influences in entertainment?
Teenage Viv. Okay, so well, I remember Terminator. Because all of the movies, I guess it was I watched them much later. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I obviously didn't watch them when they were out, so I watched them much later. And but I remember a lot of like action films. That was my big thing. I always was a fan. I am a fan of big action films.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I remember a lot of like Terminator. What else? Oh, I just remember a childhood movie that I absolutely love to this day the Neverending Story.
Oh, right there with you. Yeah.
I still love that movie. I actually
Mhm.
own the movie. I watched it and I was like, it's so well made. Yeah, but I feel like ever since I was a kid and even growing up, and even to this day, my taste hasn't changed much. I still go back and I love all these films like Indiana Jones, Back to
Mhm.
the Future, Terminator. I don't know, all of these big action-packed films. I've always been a fan, and it hasn't really changed much to this day when I look back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also, I wasn't very big in animation, but as much as I could, I always watched animation. And then when we got to the Pixar era, right, all these big Pixar films start coming out before Disney bought them.
Mhm.
I was also very much into that.
Nice. Yeah. One of the things about bringing up a kid when Pixar was coming up was that I got to enjoy those films without any guilt. I love
Mm-hmm.
like Cars, things like that.
Yeah, me too. They're very nicely done.
Yeah. I also love Labyrinth. I still own that and had to show that with my kids, along with the Neverending Story.
Oh, I love the Neverending Story. It's such a good movie. I remember crying so much with the horse Atrax.
Oh,
Oh my
yes.
God, that was like, that's good filmmaking right there.
Yeah, it really was. It was a great story.
Yeah.
The second one was a little bit of a disappointment, though.
Oh yeah, those were like, I think there's 3 of them, and they're just. I mean, if you don't continue with the same cast, you don't continue with the same directors. Like very rarely things changes and they go well. Most of the
Mm-hmm.
time it's just. But I heard that the writer of the book actually hated the film.
Really?
I just saw a documentary about it a while ago, and apparently he absolutely hates the film. I don't know why, because for me it's a very well made film. I love it. The acting was great too. You know how child actors are so hard to. I mean, it's hard to cast them. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
very hard to get really good like performances, but I mean, some films were really able to do that, like E.T. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
love E.T. so much, So I think it's just like Spielberg is a master, and he's definitely one of my favorite directors of all time. Yes.
Yeah. Yep, I'd have to agree with that. So into your 20s, I guess you said that you basically liked the same things from when you were growing up.
Mm-hmm. I feel like my taste hasn't changed much when I look back. I still watch all these films that I used to watch growing up very fondly. Nothing
Mm-hmm.
has changed. Uh, yeah.
So you said the prequel era. That's when you first came into Star Wars.
That's what is very vivid in my mind, but it's not the first. I'm sure it's not the first. The first Star Wars I've ever watched was A New Hope.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad introduced it to me the way it was made. So if we watched A New Hope, we watched, I remember loving The Return of the Jedi because of the. Don't be mad, but because of
I'm
the.
not mad.
Yeah, because of the. Oh my God, what's the name of the? I used
The
to call them.
Ewok.
I used to call them the Ewoks teddy bears. I loved them. They were like my favorite thing.
Yeah, the cannibal teddy bears. Yeah.
I know, but I mean, when I watched it, I was so little, but like I remember really enjoying them.
Mm-hmm.
But then after that I'm trying to remember if he took me to the movies to see the prequels. But I just remember really finding Jar Jar a little bit annoying, even as a kid. I did, but and I remember liking not the first very much, but the other ones I enjoyed the story a little bit more.
My father loves Jar Jar.
Really, my
That is
dad
like his
too.
What is it with dads? Like, he loves that.
I always thought he was so stupid. I was like, no one is that dumb. Come on. Like, I remember, like, one image that always comes to my head when I think Jar Jar Binks is when his tongue gets loose on the thing, and then he can't talk because his tongue is loose. Like, remember at the very when Anakin is fixing the jet, to go to the pod racing. There's this energy field, and Jar Jar puts his head on it, and his tongue gets caught, and then he can't, like, his tongue is like, blah, 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 blah. I remember telling my dad, like on the floor, crying, laughing, and I was like, "This is not funny. That's actually stupid."
Yep, that's my
He
dad
loved
too.
it.
Actually, Knob Bob the Troll just mentioned something. Well, I guess he wanted to ask you, Viv. What about Tron or the Black Hole? Did you like those?
Tron or no, I wasn't big on that.
Okay.
I wasn't big on I do remember watching, but like it's not like it's very faded. It's not something it's not really like, wow, I can really talk about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I remember Tron, and Black Hole actually was one of my favorites.
Yeah, I don't think I'm familiar with Black Hole because remember I was in Brazil, so I'm not sure. Even though we were heavily influenced by everything here, pretty much.
It was a Disney. It might actually be. You know what? When you have the time, it might actually be kind of a research piece for you to watch the Black Hole, because it was a Disney Star Wars knockoff, direct knockoff.
I mean, the same way they did with Lion King, right? Which is apparently completely taken from, I think, a Japanese story.
Oh yeah, I mean, just complete with droids and the entire space opera, the characters. It mirrored Star Wars a lot. I mean, it wasn't the same story, but it was a very Disney-fied version, very cheesy version. I mean, I just love. It's a guilty pleasure for me.
No, I don't think I'm familiar. I actually am not. I don't remember. So
okay,
I'll check it out.
Yeah, check it out when you have time. When you have time to watch a bad movie for the right reasons.
Okay. This coming week, I will have time.
Okay. All right. So let's see. Prequel era. So like my son, he grew up in the prequel era. So he's very into Clone Wars. He loves Anakin Skywalker, Ahsoka, Mace Windu, the younger Obi-Wan. Loves all those characters. And I had to go back and watch Star Wars with him again recently.
How do you feel about the prequels? Are you a lover or a hater?
I love them. I love them. I accept the mistakes that were made. I went and saw them all in the theater when they first came out, opening weekend. Revenge of the Sith is my favorite Star Wars movie, and I grew up with the originals. I love the originals.
Film, yeah.
Yeah, but I think I love Revenge of the Sith because it makes Return of the Jedi so much more meaningful.
I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah. So okay, so let's backtrack a little bit. How did you feel when Disney bought Lucasfilm?
I mean, I actually had a bad feeling about it, and it's not even a pun. Like, I literally, in my stomach, I was like, I have a bad feeling about it.
That's a pun, Viv.
Yeah, but like, no pun intended. Just because, I kind of got into filmmaking because of these guys, George Lucas, Spielberg, and it's hard to understand how he would give up his baby, but at the same time, I do understand. I mean, he's much older now, and now that I study films and I've been making like shorts and stuff, I understand the hard work, the stress that goes behind it. I mean, at a certain point in your life, you probably want to quit or just at least retire, so I totally understand that. Plus, he was probably a little bit hurt with the backlash, especially when I came to America. I saw people like, what? People hate the prequels. What? That's news for me. I didn't know that. And I was like, I think all of those things kind of played a role on his, eventually giving up. But I felt really sad because I wish that he would have not sold it. I wish that he had hired other directors, or at least had, I don't know, maybe give a job to Dave Filoni and just like be still behind it, because as long as it was his, he could tell the story the way it is supposed to be. Because right now it's hard to look at Star Wars and accept it as canon, because that's not the story that George wanted to tell, and we already know as a fact, even Bob Iger told himself on his book that, yes, we did not go with his treatments. George Lucas said it himself that apparently he was upset. So it is a well-known fact that they did change. They just decided to do their own thing and not have George involved, and which shows in the films. It clearly shows in the film. But see, I'm very forgiving when it comes to things. Like when I first saw the Force Awakens, in my mind I was like, okay, I get what they're doing here. This is a copy of A New Hope. Basically, it's the same movie with new characters, but I understand that they perhaps they're just trying to bring people back, restore that feeling, and then move forward. Little did I know that moving forward was going to be destroying everything, in the worst possible way that they could. I mean, the science, to be honest with you, my dad did not watch The Last Jedi to this date because of the way Han died. He was so upset.
Wow.
That to this day, when we have conversations, I don't want to talk about that movie. I can't believe that he was very upset. And I was upset too, because Han is one of my favorite characters. But at the same time, I said, oh no, he's going to come back as flashback. I didn't think he was done.
Right.
I thought that they would, because there's so much story that hasn't been told yet. Like, we don't really know exactly what happened. I firmly believe that they were going to go back to that, but apparently not. They literally are just killing the original characters one by one. And I mean, that's exactly what they wanted to do, and yeah, it's a complicated era for Star Wars fans. Apart from The Mandalorian, I'm pretty happy with The Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm. So coming to America and then seeing the backlash against the prequels, which by all means was the first Phantom Menace, even in name, and then seeing the backlash that's happening now. Do you draw any parallels between the two?
I think that yes, because I think it was more. I do think, because right now George is not involved, and right now basically the mythology is being completely destroyed. Like it's different in that way. Like, I know people had complaints because they didn't like the midichlorians, they didn't like the way that Anakin acted, they didn't like certain things or certain characters. But I think the difference is that nowadays it kind of killed a little bit the enjoyment of the films itself. Like right now, like I don't think that the prequels killed the enjoyment of the original trilogy, for instance. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And for me, the way I disconnected from it is like, I just don't consider the sequel trilogy a canon for me. For me, the only canon is the one that came from George, because otherwise, if I do think about these films as a whole, it kind of takes a little bit my enjoyment away from the films. Because, I mean, I don't want to think of Luke Skywalker being this old hermit, I want to think of Luke Skywalker as being this. I firmly thought I was going to go see Luke Skywalker Gandalf style. I'm not even kidding. Like I was expecting that. It's been like, for my dad, it's been 40 years. For me, I don't know how many years. I heard so many stories about this guy. I saw him in the books. We haven't really seen him in action in full power. And they give us that. Not only that, they deny us a reunion of the original cast. For what reason? Why would they bring these guys back and not give us a satisfying? It's like they hate the fans. It's kind of weird to understand the logic behind it, but at the same time, I think there's a lot involved. There's the identity politics. There is the fact that they don't want to pay all the rights to George. So as long as they keep involving their characters, because now they need to create their new characters. I don't know. Do you think they had to pay George rights to BB-8, for instance? What do you think? Do you know about it?
For BB-8?
Yeah, these characters that was invented by Disney.
No, I think that I would think that those are characters that were created after the original prequels and expanded universe. Like they're set apart So I would imagine all the profit would go directly to Disney.
So that's one of the things that it always comes to my mind. I think that they're purposely getting rid of all these other characters because as long as they have them, they are linked to George. But like at the same time, I mean, I don't know. It's very hard to understand their logic because, you know, they bought the franchise to do this. You know, they
Right.
bought the biggest IP, one of the greatest, you know, it's been around for so long. It had a formula that worked. Why do they have to go around and change it? It just doesn't make any sense to me. And just changing with characters that are not that compelling or that, you know, and that's why they don't sell. The toys don't sell anymore. Like people don't want Rose Tico's or Paul or Finn. And like Finn even had an interesting story until they destroyed him. Like by the time you get to the I was like, that is so interesting. We've never seen a stormtrooper's perspective that way. But did they do anything interesting with it? No. They just throw him in the garbage as if he's no longer an interesting character. He just became Rose Tico's sidekick. and his arc was basically the same. He's running away again. So there's no, these movies are, you know, they are a mess. If you really think about them, they're just, it looks like, I mean, it doesn't look like it is for true. The truth is that they had no vision behind it. No one person saying this is how it's going to end. There's certain things when you're making films and you're making a trilogy that you kind of change as you're going. And I know a lot of that happened in the original trilogy. But the difference here that even though you're doing that, you still know your end goal. But it seems like with these new films, they never even knew that. They just were going along and just like, it doesn't make any sense to me that they would just give a movie to Rian Johnson to write and direct the whole thing. And it felt like no one ever read through the script and said, okay, this is a problem here. Like how it's baffling to me that a company that, you know, has so much money and so many people involved read this and thought it was a good idea. Yeah. To me, that movie destroyed my enjoyment for, you know, these new films. And even what I thought, like I said, I can be very forgiving. Not that I thought The Force Awakens was an incredible film, but like I enjoyed it for what it was because I thought that things were going to be different. I never in my mind, I thought they would disrespect the characters like Mary Poppins in space or, you know, Luke Skywalker,
and they just flush Admiral Akbar right out the bridge.
Yeah, Akbar disappeared, like all these beloved characters that you grew up that became like, you know, it's just it shows the lack of understanding of the franchise, you know, and this is their own fault because they I think that they should not have disconnected from George completely, you know. I think that it clearly shows that he would be willing to give them advice, but the problem I think is that they would clash. They're not keen to hear his opinions. He said in an interview that if he were to be involved, he would just cause trouble because he would say that's not how it is done. You know, that is not how the Force works. That is what is in my mind. Because this is me watching the movie. I was repeating what Han said. That's not how the Force works. But of course, now they're changing everything, and I don't know. I don't mind change, but I do want to understand the process. You know, if they just change things for the sake of changing and not giving us a pleasing explanation, it becomes this nonsense magical trick. And I remember, you know, I've seen so many documentaries with George Lucas, especially like studying film. He's very keen in filmmaking for what he did. And I remember watching an interview with him once where he said he did not want the Force to become a magical trick. But that's what became right now. Like an example of that is it's Leia surviving in space. You know, even though Star Wars is fantasy and a lot of the things, okay, it's not logical, but it still had some sort of logic. Does that make sense? Like your brain could still grasp around the things that they were doing. Like Jedi, they died, you know, so the Force is not this magical trick that would just save you all the time. Like you could potentially be in danger. But then you have Leia blowing up in space. How does she survive? I still don't understand. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, you figure that out. You let me know, Viv, because I have no idea. And apparently in 9, there's going to be another space jump scene. Rey's going to jump through space.
Oh my God! Without a chute, without this.
Oh well, from a hangar into the Millennium Falcon, which is outside the hangar in space.
Yeah. So it kind of becomes a little bit of a joke, and I understand that they say are for kids and blah. I understand that, and I don't deny it is for kids, but it's not a movie that is solely for kids, and that's one of the things that they use as an excuse, you know. And I do understand that people see the movies as a kid different as they see as an adult. Like I remember watching the prequels as a kid, and the experience I have as an adult is completely different because I see the flaws as an adult, but I still like them, you know. I still understand the story. So the fact that it's for a kid doesn't mean that it's not for adults either, because that's the brilliant of what George Lucas made. He made a movie that it was really like all, I mean, if you look back at photos in the 70s, they're mostly adults on the line over there. Like they're mostly my dad was a teenager when he went to watch it, you know?
Right.
So this is just another excuse that they like to use just to cover up their lack of love for what is so beloved by others, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
The hints were all there. Like, have you seen this picture of Luke Skywalker with an X on his face? Did you see that? You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
So that's little things like that is proof that, you know, I don't know what they have against Luke Skywalker, because again, if they want to preach, oh, all men are so evil and so bad, shouldn't they be writing good characters to pose an example for young boys? But isn't that logic?
That's a good point.
Even that logic doesn't make sense, you know. Like if they do believe all men are so evil, why would they destroy Luke Skywalker? I mean, what was evil about him? He respected his sister. He was a loving guy. He's a great hero. He's a great example for young boys, for men. I mean, why would they destroy him deliberately? What is the answer there?
I can only suspect from the information that I've gathered and placed into my books that it was just a concerted effort to create a certain image. And they wanted to take the hero of many people's childhoods and tear him down into a grumpy old hermit who would, you know, get off my lawn, you know, throw away a lightsaber and say, get off my lawn. I don't get it either. Did you see Solo?
Yes.
What did you think of that?
I thought it was horrible. I did not like it.
Well, you didn't like who covered Chewie?
No, I didn't. I didn't like it because it wasn't about Solo. I don't think that they thought that the character could carry a film because it wasn't Harrison Ford. So they had to make it about Han going after the girlfriend. It doesn't make any sense. Plus, just the fact that to bring a girlfriend that no one is going to care, we already know he's going to end up with Leia. There's a lot of things that just doesn't make sense to me in that film. And he's kind of like, there's certain mysteries about the life of Han Solo that, you know, it's the fun thing about it's because they were mysterious. Like I don't need to know where he got his name from, because now I was like, that's stupid. So a guy from the Empire, like an Empire officer, gave him and then it's so stupid. I was like, he would never keep it. Are you kidding me? This doesn't make any sense. Who's writing this? And apparently Kasdan was involved, right? The writer of the original.
Yes, the writer of Empire Strikes Back and his son.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest factor of not working was people are not ready to see Han Solo without Harrison Ford. Second, we have already seen the young Han Solo, so we already know how he behaves. We already know a lot of things that it's hard to go back and do a movie about that. I think it will only work in animation with Harrison Ford dubbing it. You know what I mean?
Right.
also, I just watched it once. I'm trying to like think about problems with the film, and that's also cashing on nostalgia for the sake of nostalgia, not really serving the purpose of the story. Like, of course, at the very end they bring Darth Maul, but it's just a lot of things. I don't know. It was just, I didn't think it was a movie completely about Solo. I didn't think that it introduced anything that we need. I don't need to know where he got this blaster from. Like, that is just not that interesting. And I didn't really think that the actor himself did a terrible job. I thought he was fine, but he's just not Han Solo. That's the problem. He's not Han Solo. It's already in our minds. And it's the same thing when in the future they recast an Indiana Jones. People are not going to accept it. There is just one, you know?
Right.
There's just one Han Solo, and that is Harrison Ford. And good luck trying another one. It's just not going to work. They couldn't do the same thing they did with Obi-Wan's character, for instance, because they had the older version first, and then you had someone really good actor playing Obi-Wan. Yeah. And he gave us great memes. Come on.
Yes, he did. I love Ewan McGregor.
Yeah, I just saw the Attack of the Clones yesterday, and I started watching because I wanted to watch the Revenge of the Sith, but I wanted to remember exactly how it ends. So I was watching, and I love when he goes, another happy landing, and then it's just like, yeah. So yeah, that they could not make that work with Solo because we already had the younger version. Just no way.
What did you think? Did you see Rogue One?
Yes.
And what did you think of that?
I liked the film. I thought the film was very good. I know that a lot of people think that it kind of dismisses the work of Luke, but I don't really agree because I think he would still need the Force to do what he did at the end of New Hope. That doesn't, all the fact that they know they just know the weakness. So I kind of enjoyed that. I thought it was a well-made film. And also the very last scene, it's kind of worth the whole ticket.
Yes.
Darth Vader destroying everything on his way. I was like, oh my God. The power of these original characters is unbeatable. I think the one that got closest is probably Baby Yoda, that became a fever now. Because all of the new characters created by Disney, none of them had the star power of Luke Skywalker, Leia, Chewbacca, Han Solo, Darth Vader, 3PO, R2. Like these are like the iconic characters for a reason. Like when you see them on the screen, they're just, like I remember how much I enjoyed. I bought Rogue One so I could watch that scene over and over again.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's just so cool to see him in action in all fury like that.
I also, I've read a little bit, I've read some of the expanded universe, and seeing Mustafar and Vader's castle, and that scene was also very powerful. Seeing him in the Bacta tank and then, without his suit on, I thought that was pretty cool.
Yes. And it's kind of weird that Disney had this gold mine in their hands, and they weren't able to, do a good job with it. And it all falls. It falls on Kathleen Kennedy's hands for sure, because she had so many problems with directors. Who knows what's going on there? But in my mind, it's just the fact that she doesn't really get Star Wars for what it is about.
Well, a couple comments. Kang Nugent, he says they need to do a Vader flick of him doing the Jedi hunt.
Oh,
what do you think of that?
Sweet. Yes, I would love to see that, because that's something that he definitely did, right?
Yeah.
And especially after the Revenge of the Sith, he lost so much. He must have been like in full power mode of hate, yes, that would be sweet. I definitely like. There's so many things to do with Star Wars, right? So many things, and Vader is a character that. The great thing is that because of the mask, you're not really stuck to one actor,
Right, and I that was my favorite. When I 3rd grade and 4th grade Halloween, I was Darth Vader.
Yeah. Yeah.
I and so
He's cool.
the redemption arc for Vader made it so much better. Like it's just Return of the Jedi for me, when Vader redeemed himself at the end, that endeared me to the character even more.
Hmm.
You know.
Yeah. I think that the end is very powerful. I love that movie. I really, that's why I really appreciate the prequels, because as a filmmaker myself, I do understand he went overboard with the CGI. I think he should have stuck with the practical effects.
Right.
But he's a visionary and he's not scared of making mistakes, and that is a good thing in filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
And but the story is there, despite of all the flaws. The story of the fall of Anakin Skywalker is there, and for me, it's always very powerful to go back and see him falling and analyzing his decisions. And also, it's frustrating to see how the Jedi does not, like, how the Jedi is so blind to his pain. Like, I was just watching the Attack of the Clones yesterday, literally 2 days ago, actually, and I was like, he's talking to Yoda about death. And how are they so blind? How can he's asking for help, and no one is there to help him. And so it's the fault of the Jedi too, a little bit, that he fell. Don't you think?
Yeah, I believe so too. Maybe the one thing in The Last Jedi, maybe one or two things in The Last Jedi that I liked, and one of the things was Luke talking about the hubris of the Jedi.
Yeah,
because you couldn't really have that without not seeing that Anakin, what was going to unfold, what was going to happen.
Correct. I agree with that point that he said too. I think that that's one reason why he would have been a different Jedi. And that's the one reason they should not have destroyed him, because we needed to see that difference. How was he different from the past mistakes ones? I mean, you would think that Yoda, one of the most powerful Jedis ever, would have seen through Anakin and would have reached out, but they're so like, oh, you can't get connected to anyone, you can't this, you can't that, like, it's all these rules. And then, like, clearly you see that he is going through something and no one is there to help him, and he has to hide everything. And then you have the devil there kind of seducing him and just saying, I can help you, I can teach you how keep someone from dying. All these things, it's very powerful, and it's truly the tragical hero story.
Yeah.
That's why I really love Vader. I think it's one of the greatest villains and heroes ever created, because he's kind of both.
Yeah. Real quick, I do want to segue into seeing Ian McDiarmid again. That's one of the things I am looking forward to in Out of Nine. But there's a debate raging within the fandom menace, or within the fandom, about Baby Yoda. I myself am Team Baby Yoda. One of my co-hosts and good friends is Sporky News Podcast. He is Baby Yoda soup. He wants to eat Baby Yoda. He does not like Baby Yoda.
Wow.
Yes. Ryan Kinnell, I don't know if you're familiar with RK Outpost. He's very anti-Baby Yoda himself.
No, I think Baby Yoda is a kind of like another. It's a little bit of a rehash of the Gremlins. Little. Do you remember that movie with the Gremlins?
Oh yeah, I love the Gremlins. Yeah,
but I do enjoy Baby Yoda, because I think that they're being very smart with it, with the fact that we don't know anything about the species, not even the name.
Yeah.
So they could really play with that. And all we know is that they are very powerful in the Force. That's about it, right? We don't know the name of the species. And the fact that it is revealed that they age so slowly, it's just like, it's fascinating to me. And I can't help the cuteness. I just can't. I just like, my heart melts every time I see him.
Oh man, yeah. See, like, Random Brad creates, he burned Yoda, hates him. Gobnob the Troll, I love Baby Yoda. It's just it's been a debate. And you know what? It's a debate.
I like him. It's fine.
But it's a debate in Star Wars that's like how it used to be in the Star Wars fandom. It's a fun debate.
Exactly. Yeah, that's different. It's different than hate. This is just like people, I hate him or I like him, but it's different than the kind of stuff that surrounded the Last Jedi. But that's also because of all the media's articles calling I think it has a lot to do with the media itself dismissing criticism, not even hearing what people were saying. They just created a certain narrative and said people that don't like the movie because of this, and it's not even what people were saying out there. I mean, of course, I'm pretty sure there are, men that do not like seeing women in films. I mean, I don't doubt that, or misogynist or racist. All of this stuff is real. But using that as a narrative to prevent people to talk about things that they believe doesn't work, it just doesn't make any sense to me. As a marketing, even with a marketing thing, it just doesn't make sense. These movies are supposed to be made for the fandom. We're the ones paying money for it. We're the ones spending money merchandising. We're the ones that are going to be passing it on to our kids. What is the point of destroying beloved characters and not even acknowledging people's criticism? It's crazy to me. I don't understand the marketing behind it. I don't understand. It's like they wanted to buy Star Wars to kill Star Wars. How does that make any sense?
And not one apology, not one time has anyone in Lucasfilm come out and said these statements don't reflect how we feel about the fans, and that speaks volumes.
Yeah, and it's very rare for you to see. But I understand these people in Hollywood. They're living their own little bubble that they don't really understand the real world or what people really think or struggles of life. They don't understand any of that. They barely understand how meaningful Star Wars or movies entertainment is for people. They don't understand because they don't their problems is not our problems. So for them, destroying beloved characters like that is just because they can. Let's just or it's also, I think a little bit, it's because they believe the brand is so strong that they could do whatever they wanted and people just accept it. And that's where things went south, because that's not what happened. Star Wars fans do not accept whatever. They will voice their opinions if they don't like something.
As a filmmaker, what would you have done different with the sequel trilogy?
Oh, a lot of things different. I mean, I'm not a screenwriter, so obviously I have to work with scripts that are given to me. But what I would not have done is I wouldn't have destroyed the original characters in order for the new ones to shine, because I don't think that's the formula. I think it would have been way better if it was indeed a movie about passing the torch than it was a movie about destroying your heroes. I think that would have been way more powerful. I would not have had Luke Skywalker being a complete loser, And if I were to write Rey, I would have given her a hero's journey. That's film 101. You want a character in order for you to connect to it, regardless of whatever gender this character is, needs to have some sort of struggles. And it's usually related to human struggles, because those are the things that we connect, and those are the things that keep us intrigued. Or what's the character going to do now? I mean, if she was written closer to the way that Luke was written, she would have been way more likable character than just a Mary Sue. People don't like these characters that is just completely out of nowhere, doing everything magical. It doesn't make any sense. I look back at Luke Skywalker. If he had heard Yoda, when Yoda told him, "You're not ready," he wanted to go save Leia and he wanted to go save Han, right? And did he? He didn't save any. If he had gone there or not gone there, nothing would have changed, because he was not the one that helped save Han and Leia anyways. So if he had heard Yoda, but no, what does he do? No, I need to go help them. He goes there. He's not ready. What does Darth Vader do? Chops his hand off. That is kind of the stuff that, you get when you go face someone that you're not ready. But we don't get any of that in the new movies. There is no such thing. You would assume that Kylo Ren being trained his entire life by the master Luke Skywalker, would have been a way more powerful Jedi or Sith or whatever than Rey. But she has no training. She never got a lightsaber in her hands ever. And, okay, there's such thing called beginner luck, and I'll buy it once, but
Right.
I can't buy it twice, 3 times, or 4, because it does happen, like those things in life that like something falls and you go, holy, how did that happen? So if they had gone to the route that said beginner's luck once, even that I think fans could accept. But the fact that it wasn't that, it was just over and over and over and over, and now she's gonna beat him again in this movie. I don't even need to watch it to know that that's gonna happen. It's just because they want to create this this character that is untouchable, that it can't do no harm, no evil, no bad. But that's not what people really connect to. That's not interesting to watch. What is interesting to see how a character is going to deal without a hand. What's interesting about Luke Skywalker is like, oh my God, he just lost a hand. Like I told you, Yoda told you. Those are the kind of stuff that we connect, and I just I don't know. I just thought that they are really, it's hard to really grasp what's really going on in those studios, because it's not only one person, it's a bunch of them coming up with these ideas. And in my mind, I was like, why wouldn't they get someone that is a diehard fan that could have warned them or say, this is not going to work? But I mean, they didn't want to hear George Lucas himself. Why would they hear a fan?
That is the question. So are you going to see episode 9?
Oh, definitely. I feel like it's my obligation as a YouTube channel. I review films, and also because of my curiosity. I'm not going to watch it 5 times like I used to for a Star Wars film. Like I'll watch it once for review purposes, and then that's about it.
So
I haven't even gotten a ticket or anything. I'm in no rush, to be honest. In fact, it's not even in my mind. I was like, oh my God, apparently it's coming out this week. I'm more excited to watch Wednesday, The Mandalorian, than I am to watch, which is not a good thing. It's not a good sign. Someone was posting on Twitter that the Wonder Woman trailer that came out a few days ago, it's almost the same likes as the Star Wars trailer that came out how long ago? So that kind of shows, and this is the kind of arrogance that it's very sad from Lucasfilm as a company. Because if they had said, okay, we get it, you guys are not happy with the product, we're going to do better, the same way that the company behind Sonic did, this would have been a complete different story and a complete different conversation. Would I still hate The Last Jedi? Sure, I will hate that movie until the day I die. but I would be way more willing to forgive them and to give them a chance. Okay, they messed up and they acknowledge that they messed up. Okay, what they're gonna do next? But no, the narrative is still there. The annoying the fans and just calling fans names are still there. Acknowledging that The Last Jedi was brilliant is still there. I mean, what else do you need to know that people did not like that movie in general? Of course, there's some people that liked it. I'm not saying that, but I think it's mostly people that are not really connected to the lore or don't really care as much, or just go for the fun entertainment.
Right. Well, I heard that it compared to kind of like the Twilight. Where Twilight was a big thing with the tweens and some adults. I did know some adults that were into that series of movies, but here we are years later, and no one talks about it.
Yeah,
and I think that's what the Disney, in my opinion, that's what the Disney trilogy is going to end up becoming. It's going to be talked about now, and then in 5-10 years, no one's going to care, which is a shame.
Yeah, they're making movies without substance, without that human connection, without those beloved stories and those things that we connect to. That's why Star Wars was so revolutionary. It was not only the visual effects, but it's also it's a very simple story. 3 friends, struggling to survive. It's like it's just, and the way that they care for each other, the way that they fight, even though it's so everything. It was so relatable and easy. It's a fight against evil, good and evil, you know. And okay, I just the truth is, it's no longer George. So that's exactly what happened. You know, now they can do whatever they want, and there's nothing we the fans can do apart from just reject.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But now the Mandalorian. You said you look forward to that. What do you think of that show?
I think it's very well done. I think it feels like Star Wars. I think it's based on a very simple story of following a guy's journey. I love the visuals. I love the practical effects. I really like how it's exploring the lore. You know, and how it really makes the world of Star Wars feel bigger. You know, like, even, did you see the latest episode?
Oh, I thought that was so great, that last
It was
episode.
so good. Like the commenting on all these aliens, you know, like
the actors, everything.
The actors, you know, and it's just like, it's something that it really feels like Star Wars for me, you know. Like, I was like, when I started watching it, okay, this is what the new movies should have been about. You know, they forgot about it. Like, they forgot about these simple stories and, you know, the lore. You know, obviously here they're not really dealing with any characters that we know, so it's easier to judge. I'll give them that. But at the same time, I think that it's being made by two guys that know George pretty well. Like, Dave Filoni worked closely with the Clone Wars with George. So I think him and Jon Favreau are definitely the guys for the job.
You know, I did want to talk about DC with you. This hour went so fast.
We can talk about DC now.
Well, just for a few minutes, are you looking forward to JJ coming over into the DC cinematic universe?
I'm actually looking forward for that to not be true.
Oh, okay.
I think JJ is a great director, but I'm not sure if he can really create a lore or a universe, not like Kevin Feige did. You know, I think he's great at creating visuals and things like that, but it scares me when they come over to do my favorite characters. Like, Superman is my favorite superhero of all time. It has always been, ever since I was little. I've been in love with Superman. I have like every Superman merch you can possibly imagine at home and here. And my brother just sent me another mug, a Superman mug. And it's hard to see the character not being respected, you know. So I am wary. I'm not sure, especially after Star Wars. I think that he did kind of a good job restarting the new franchise, but then he did things with beloved characters that I can't really get behind, like what he did to Han. It's hard for me to accept that. So it scares me if he comes over to DC and he's going to start killing characters that they're not supposed to, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
I don't know. We'll see how after episode 9 how I'll feel about it. But I have no doubt he's a good director. But can he tell a story as in like from a comic book adaptation? I don't know. Some people are better at adaptations than others. And I think what DC needs is to really stick to comics now, just like Marvel did. These stories, there are plenty of stories that are good and they're successful. You don't have to reinvent Superman. We already know Superman is the corny guy from Kansas that does the right thing. It's simple as that. There's no complexity as far as, the complex part is the fact that, okay, he struggles with the fact that he's actually an alien and he can't, it's hard. Imagine if you have all these superpowers, but you can't really protect those that are closest to you. It must be terrifying for him. But at the same time, at the end of the day, they should just stick to the comics, do like, I think the biggest mistake that Zack did was putting too much in that Batman v Superman. I still don't understand why he would bring Doomsday in the second movie.
Yes,
are you kidding me? Right. Superman doesn't even have a Man of Steel 2, and you're bringing the Doomsday. This is the biggest story. He should have come when the Justice League was already formed, when everyone was already in love with Superman. Right. And then when he dies, you actually feel, holy moly, Superman just
The
died.
death of Superman is a storyline that comes in later.
I
You know?
know. But this is also the problem that I understand that because I've done a lot of research. It's the same thing that George Lucas used to talk about studios, is that even though a lot of this stuff is not even on Zach's hand, it's the studios kind of pressuring them, because they need to catch up with Marvel. But, I don't know, you as a creator, how much of a say do you have? But it was the biggest mistake to have brought Doomsday so early in it didn't make any sense. They barely established Batman. I mean, are you kidding me? I don't know how they can come back from that. I mean, I guess they could go with the dark side storyline, which that would be another big one. That would be their Thanos, right?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And in order to do that, they really have to do the Supergirl storyline. There are things that they have to set up, like they did with Thanos, before they bring Thanos. Before they bring that character in.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work that needs to be done. What did are you a release the Snyder cut person? Do you want to see that?
I am 100% want to see it for my curiosity's sake. It's not because I think it's going to be better. No, I mean, I think it's going to be better because Justice League is literally an embarrassment to Warner Bros. To this day, I cannot believe they released that with that terrible CGI to Superman, one of their biggest characters. So I want to see the Snyder Cut because I think it's going to be better. Even though there's some little elements from the Josh Whedon version that I liked, like, the little fight that they have with the themes, the original themes.
Yeah.
I kind of like that. Like when you actually heard that, I was like, I dig that. But I just think that movie was a mess. And I just think that, yes, I want to see the Snyder Cut for my curiosity's sake, mainly because of that. But I don't think it's going to change anything or set up any lore anymore because now they have already dropped that universe.
Right.
So I'm very curious to see what are they doing with Wonder Woman now and Aquaman, because those two are definitely, and Shazam. So all confirmed, Shazam is having a second film, Black Adam with The Rock. So Wonder Woman has another film coming very soon in the summer. And then Aquaman 2, it's also supposed to go forward. So, and these were characters that were there, the Justice League. So they need to figure it out, Superman now.
Yeah. Do you think that Henry Cavill is good enough to pull it off with the right script?
Absolutely. He's one of my favorites after Christopher Reeves. I think that even the way that he talks about fandom, the reason why I'm 100% behind Henry Cavill is because he is a fan. And it's very rare to get actors that are actually fan of the characters, that actually care. He's always been a fan. And did you see his latest conversation about toxic fandom when someone was asking with The Witcher?
It was refreshing.
Yes, that is kind of, so that's Henry Cavill right there, and I believe that he does have potential to be a great Superman with a great script. I would love to see the Snyder Cut now, also because apparently he's wearing the black suit, but
man.
I'm not sure. Yeah, there's picture. Zack Snyder's released a picture with Superman in the black suit. So there's a lot of things I would love to see, but I'm not sure if the movie has any connection to anything anymore. It would just be for the sake of my curiosity.
Right. So what films are you looking forward to seeing? What upcoming films?
Well, there's Wonder Woman for sure. I enjoyed Patty Jenkins' first film. Hopefully this will be great too. There's Top Gun, which is the one that I just reacted to the trailer. I think I
wanted to check that out.
I think it looks very close to the original, but I just think, I don't know, it looks like a really good film. Also Ghostbusters by Jason Reitman. I think that is looking beautiful. At least I was very impressed with the trailer. So I definitely want to see that. And I think that's all that comes to my mind. I'm sure there are others, but that's the one. And maybe the I'm kind of curious to see what Marvel is gonna do next. Even though it's hard now, I think it's without these. I don't know, without Iron Man around. I'm very curious to see how if Kevin Feige is smart the way that we all think he is. How is he going to get people to watch these films now without these other characters that he established before?
Right.
So I'm interested, definitely interested.
All right. Well, it's about the end of the show. Just in case there's anybody out there who isn't aware of your channel, even though you have thousands and thousands more than me, why don't you go ahead and explain to the audience who you are and about your channel?
Sure. So my channel is called Hey Viv, and over there I usually talk entertainment in general. I'll do reactions, I'll do reviews, I'll talk about topics that everyone is talking about. I'll give my my reviews on movies. But the biggest thing you will find in my channel is honesty. I will give you my honest opinion, regardless if I like it, I'll tell you why I like it. If I hate it, I'll tell you why I hate it. So that's it. If you enjoy entertainment, just come over, subscribe to my channel, and let's have fun together.
Sounds great. Viv, thanks for stopping by. Our channel mascot, Tyler Mango, loves you. He said heaven, God decided to stop by for an interview.
Thank you, Tyler.
Yeah,
really
he's great. Yeah, Tyler's great. So, yeah, if you are not subscribed to Hey Viv, give her channel a look. I've been a fan of hers for well over a year now. She does great reviews. She's a real fan, and it's refreshing to hear perspectives from Viv whenever I watch one of her videos. Thank you very much for stopping by, Viv. I appreciate you coming by for an interview.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It has been a pleasure, a really great conversation. I had a lot of fun.
All right, excellent. Thank you to the chat for stopping by, and anybody who's listening in the future. I appreciate you listening to this interview. Go see Hey Viv, check out her YouTube channel, and thank you very much. And be good to each other.